Right, welcome. While we're all on lockdown at the moment, I thought I'd make another video as everyone's asking me if I could do some more. And today we're going to rebuild a starter motor. The most common faults with these is very sluggish starting, where they really turn over slowly, and more case than many it's the bearings in this end and this end that fail. They're like bronze bushes. They're not really bearings, they're self-lubricating bushes, and you get a lot of play like this, and so it just turns over very sluggishly. Also the brushes can get worn as well. So today we're going to rebuild this, and I'm going to show you how the whole thing comes apart. The bits we're going to use to repair it or refurbish it is the actual bendix itself. Gosh, I'm losing my English. That's the tooth that goes onto the flywheel, and we also have in here, if you wait a second, also have in here the two bronze bushes and a new set of brushes. Those are the most common things to go wrong on these. The actual switch itself here, normally they don't fail, they've just got metal contacts inside, so we just normally clean them up unless it's actually physically broken, but it shouldn't be. So I'm going to pull the camera in so you can actually get a close look at me dismantling this, so you can see how it comes apart. Right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the switch off the top. There's two Phillips screws each side, so let's take that off first. Just like this. Oh. Once that's off, the switch should just lift off like this, literally just like this. All you have is if the camera will focus, come on camera, there's a metal contact like this that contacts onto this part of the starter motor here. So these just get dirty normally, so they just could do with a good clean, but nothing more. So we're going to put this to the side till later. The next thing to do is we have two nuts on the back of the starter motor. Oh, one there and one there. We want to undo these, and we also want to undo this, which is a small flathead screw which covers the brushes and the armature inside. So if I just grab a flat screwdriver, we can undo this here. And gently wiggle it off like so, and we put it to the side for later. Put it here somewhere. And inside here you will see the brushes. Oh, the brushes in there, and this piece of cardboard covering everything else, which actually shouldn't be there. That's been put in by someone, obviously for some form of reason. Something's been touching the casing, but that actually shouldn't be there. Someone's actually made that, so we're going to discard that. That definitely shouldn't be there. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to take the two screws off the back of the motor. Now I believe, I will find first and I'll tell you. Right, the two screws on the back of the motor are 8mm, so you want an 8mm socket. And if you have a tray like me, you either put all your bits in separate trays so you don't get confused or don't lose them. If you have a magnetic tray, or I've got this rubber mat, so all my bits are safe. So there's a screw and a washer, the nut and a washer, shall I say. and that comes off like so. Now also what I would probably do is take the brushes out before you take the back off. It just saves everything flipping out. Inside you will see there's the brushes, and there is a Phillips screw there, the Phillips screw there, that's holding the cable down to the terminal. So let's take the Phillips screws out. Like so. And then just pull this terminal away like so. Okay, there's another cable underneath which goes to the armature. Just put the screw back in just so you don't lose it, and so that doesn't come off, and then you obviously know where it goes when you put it back on again. So we'll just put that side back on just loosely, and we'll remove the other side here like so. Same thing. Remove this out the way and replace the screw like so. Now what you want to do is, you've got some little springs here, you want to lift them up. I'm going to try and do this on the video somehow. Oh, the top of the starter's coming away. You want to lift this spring up like so, out the way. If you get a screwdriver behind it, and then you can lift the brush straight out, and then just let the spring snap back again like so. So I'll show you again on the other side. There's the spring. Okay, just lift it up off the brush. You can get it here, out the way, and then the brush comes out like so. So once we've done that, then we can pull the front off. Okay, out of here is dropping some washers which go onto the front of the onto the front here where the shaft goes through. Let me push that back on. See the shaft? Okay, these washers go on the front, so I'm going to put them separately, so when we reassemble it, it goes back the right way. So pull the starter apart like this. Okay, let's put the motor to one side for a minute. Right, on these splines here, there's some plastic that goes across both of them. This one happens to be missing it. Oh, it's inside the motor? No, it's actually missing it. This one's missing it. But they generally have some plastic insulation across here. So I'm just going to pull that out and put this to one side. This one's stuck and doesn't want to come out. It will with a bit of jiggering. Come on, come on. There we go. Oh, it has got the plastic on it. Sorry, my error. There we go. There's the plastic sleeving, and then the other bolt is out there. So what we're left with is just the bendix. So here's the lever, and here's the actual bendix itself. Okay. So as you can see the action from that. So what we want to do to remove this is we need to take the circlip off this side. So we can do it with a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. Just pull that off like so. One second. And then this should come out from here, push through this way. So I'm just going to get a little hammer and tap it through. So we have a punch. I'm just going to tap it through this way. And out it should come. It still doesn't want to come. It's obviously a little bit tough. So there we go. Pull the pin out. Now this with the spring, there's a spring in here as well, we'll let this come completely out, hopefully. All things going well. Not very easy, but hey, what's easy? Okay, there's the spring from the lever. And then just have to jiggle this about and out it comes, and then the lever itself also should come out. Also note that the lever goes in that way, so when you put it back together you put it the right way. So that comes out, we'll stick that next to the spring again. Takes a little bit of jiggery pokery to get it out. You're left with the empty casing with a bush in the end that's worn. This is one of the bushes we shall be replacing. So I'm just going to sit that there. Just take note of what the tooth looks like from the bendix. This is what happens to them. So if we compare the new one, you can see the big difference. And that wears, obviously. And inside there's also a bush. That bush is new, that bush is old. Well, I think it's even non-existent. So it allows us to play around a little bit, and that also adds to the poor starting. Back to the motor. These two screws that we put in lightly here, we want to take off, because this is attaching the motor to the coil. So put them in a safe place. One. Just that, yeah, just that one that's got the cable on it here. Just this one with a cable. The other one hasn't got anything on it. So just slide that off the back like that. So we now have the housing for the brushes, and obviously another bearing in the back there, which will be changed. And now we can slide the armature out this way, like this. And again, on the armature, if you have a look, there are some washers on the back. Keep them safe because they'll have to go back, their spacers. So they will go here. And so that's what we're left with. So we're left with, these are all the bits. So we're left with this, the coils inside here, the front of the starter motor, the back of the starter motor, and the switch. So that's the whole starter motor stripped down. So our next step is to clean everything. If these coils are damaged, you can replace them. They are held in place by the big Phillips screws that are on the outside. I've tested my coils and they're not damaged because obviously the starter motor was working, but very poorly. But you can get replacements. Very rare that I've seen these go. Very rare that I've seen these go. Again, this is just more cleaning this up than anything else. So I will take you, I think, into the workshop and we will start cleaning all the bits up. Right, now I have all the bits on the bench. We're going to start by cleaning up the armature here, and I'm just going to lightly spray it with a bit of degreaser. Nothing too harsh, just I don't want to damage it. So if I spray this with a little bit of degreaser, I also don't want to damage the windings or the coating on the windings. I'm going to take a little bit of shop towel and I'm just going to wipe it over just to get rid of any grease or dirt that might be on there, just like that. And as you can see on the shop towel, that's taking off quite a bit. It's taking it off from everywhere. Just want to make sure it's clean. There's no dust, no dirt. Doesn't have to be too amazing, but you know, the cleaner it is, the better. So as you can see, that's cleaned up very quickly, very nicely. What I'm going to do next is I want to clean up the actual contacts here. See, they're black. This is just from wear from the carbon brushes. don't want to use a wire wheel or anything like that. It's far too harsh. What I'm going to do, if I pull you guys a little bit nearer, it is, there's the old drill. I'm going to lock it in the drill. For those of you who don't have a bench drill, you can always use a hand drill, or you can do it by hand. I'm going to put this into the chuck, tighten it up like so. Try and tighten it up. 1 second. Well, this doesn't seem to be tightening up that well, but hopefully it should. There we go. We shall give it a spin. Doesn't need to be at a very fast speed. Just a slowish medium speed like that. I'm going to take some sandpaper. I'm going to tear a strip of it off, or a little bit of it off like so. I'm going to find somewhere some WD-40. Somewhere. Alright, do I have WD-40? No. So I'm going to find a little bit of oil. Any oil will do. WD-40 3-in-1 oil, just to rub on the sandpaper like this. I'm going to run the drill, and I'm just going to run it against the armature here, just to clean it up. I'm just going to do it a tiny bit more. I've put it in the other way this time, just to try and get this top bit. Good as possible. Just want to get it as clean as possible. There we go. I think that will do. We just stop it, take it out. There we go. Now if I give it a quick wipe. There we go. We have one very shiny and clean armature. You don't really want to polish it, just as long as it's clean, you've got all the debris off, the actual armature itself is clean, the shaft is clean, that's all that matters. I'm going to give it one more wipe and then put it to one side, and I think we're done with that. So I'll just dry this. We have one armature ready to go back into the starter. What I will do very quickly, again it doesn't have to be done, is I'm just going to run the end of this shaft here and just the bearing bits here on my polishing machine, just to try and polish them up a little bit. So let me just pull you back a little bit and we'll see the polisher. I know not everyone does this, but you could probably do it by hand, but I'm just going to use this just for a second, just to clean it up. So if we just switch this on. Now this end. Right, always wear safety goggles. What I will say now is that if we polish that off, if we clean that off, shall I say, then we have one very nice shiny shaft. This is the bit that runs in the bearing, so it's actually good that it's clean. and it's polished like that, it'll just make it run better in the bearing, just like that. Well, the next thing we're going to clean up, now we've cleaned the armature up ready for reassembling, I'm going to put that to one side, is the housing with the coils. Now this, I'm just going to again clean it up with a degreaser. I'm going to make sure this contact's nice and clean with some wet and dry, and then I'm going to paint this black. You can paint it black, you can polish it, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to paint this black. So I'll come back to you once I've cleaned this up. Now I've cleaned the windings up, as you can see, they're nice and clean. I've just used degreaser inside, nothing abrasive in here on the windings at all, literally just clean them up as best as I can. I've actually wire wheeled the outside here, again wire wheeled here. I've cleaned up the contact here, as you can see. Being careful not to damage any of the insulation on the windings at all. I'm actually going to spray this black now just because it looks nice, no other real reason. There you go, I've just sprayed that black now. I actually used a barbecue paint, funny enough, just because it's heat resistant and it's chemical resistant, and I'm going to let that dry now. Right, now we're going to be pressing our bearings, well, bushes in and out. I've done the other side already, but I'm going to show you this side. So that's going to be the same principle. Some of you might have a press. I have a press, but I'm not going to show you in the press because I appreciate that not everyone has a press. This is the new bush, and this needs to go inside and push out the old bush. And I'm going to use the new bush to push the old bush out. If you've got a press, then obviously you know what you're doing, pushing bushes in and out. If you don't have a press, you can either use some form of punch or something a little bit smaller than that and a hammer to knock it out. Let me just move that over to the vise. What I would do, what I would do first is I would heat the area around the bush. It's just going to expand it a little bit and make it easier to come out. So let's heat it up with a little blowtorch. And then we're going to use the vise to press the new one in, which will push the old one out at the same time. I'm just showing you a simpler way. Just as I said, I appreciate that not everybody has a 20 ton press. So we're just going to warm this up just so it expands a little bit. Just a little bit more, just around the edge. I'm not trying to heat the bush itself up. I'm just trying to heat the metal outside the bush, just so it expands. There you go, just like that. Now I'm going to switch it off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit this in the vise. Let me bring the camera up a little bit and over because it might make it easier to see. Let's bring it up like this, and let's point you down. Right, okay, so I'm going to take this bush and I'm going to lock it into the vise, and I'm going to press that bush out like this. What you can do is, if you've got a vise with some very sharp jaws like me, you can take a little bit of workshop towel and you can just fold it like this and just put it between the bush and the vise, just so you don't damage the bush. And then just wind your vise in, and then just wind it in, just like that. As you can see, it's just going in nicely, just gently. Make sure obviously before it starts it's lined up, and in a minute, when it's right in, the other one has now dropped out the bottom. So what we have now is our new bush, nicely inserted with little fuss. And the old one now has dropped out on the floor somewhere, but yeah. And if you do the same for the back casing as well, And the same for the gear as well. There's a bush in the middle of the gear, unless you've bought a new gear which has got a new bush already inside it. Again, use a bit of towel, just saves damaging that bush. Now let's go and reassemble. Okay, so now we have all the parts here on the table, back cleaned, new gear, that's the old one, get rid of that for the moment. We have the back, which we pressed the bearings into and cleaned it up. We have the armature, which we've cleaned. Also, I haven't got the specs to hand, but I will post them just to check the resistance of the coil to make sure the coil is okay. But I haven't really seen these fail, but it's worthwhile checking. The front of the starter with a new bearing pressed into it, and obviously the main piece of the motor. We've got the switch, screws, lever. So now we're going to put it all back together, and I shall show you how. Let me pull you in close, and we shall start. All right, so first we're going to take this and this gear, and we're just going to drop it inside like so. Then we're going to take this with that notch facing backwards, stick it in sideways like so, twist it around, and now pull this gear back so we can get this to lock inside like this. So we now have the movement here, the backwards and forwards movement. From here now we're going to put the spring and the pin in the top here. So it's very hard to show on camera, but I've just loosely put the spring in. Let's make sure that's lined up. And if you see, this piece here resting against the lever is the short bit of the spring. The long bit of the spring is actually inside. It's quite hard to show you on camera. And then we just wiggle this pin in like so. Right, so now I've got the pin in. It's a little bit fiddly to get it in there, but this is on here, the pin's in here, and as you can see, now if we hold this straight, we have this action, and it should spring back nice and strong like this. I don't know if you can see that. See? Let's look at it from that side. See? So now we've got that piece in. Let's put the little circlip back in there. Let me just tap the pin down. There we go. Now we just put the little clip back on that side like so. This bit is now done. What I would do also is just put on here a little bit of grease. So let me just grab a little bit of grease and lubricate that. Right, a little bit of grease like this, just general grease. I will just take a little bit on your fingers like so, and just smother it around here like this, just to lubricate where the fork touches the touches that gear. So it's got a nice bit of lubrication around there, just like that. Perfect. There we go. Lovely. Let's put this to one side. Just wipe my fingers quickly. It's disgusting, but hey, what can you do? So now I'm going to take the main armature. I'm going to put the washers onto the back of the motor that were there when I took it apart. I'm going to insert it into the back housing like so. And that's it. And now that's in. I'm not going to grease that. That's a self-lubricating bush, so it doesn't need any grease. I'm then going to take the coil and I'm going to slide the motor over it. Just twist it slightly till it locks in place. Should go nicely. Should go nicely. There we go, and that's in. I'm now going to just put a screw over that terminal there, like so, just to hold the back on. I'm not going to do it up completely, just a little bit, just so the back doesn't drop off. remember the screw terminal with the coil, yeah, is the terminal that's got the plastic on the back there. Okay, the other one just goes onto the brush. This one has the brush and the coil. So now I'm going to take the front of the starter motor and I'm going to insert it onto the actual starter. So I'm going to take my bolts, I'm going to slide them through like so, put the sleeving over them like this. You have to put these bolts in here before you put it on the front. So let's just put these on the front. So should look like that. Oh, like that. Make sure this is inserted properly. So this is sitting like that inside the fork. And then I'm going to insert this into the motor like so and like so. And this should, with a little bit of jiggery pokery, go back together. Hopefully. That's the idea. And what I need to do now is just put these washers on the end of the spindle that I took off, which sit on the front. Now, I think everyone's motor is going to be different. This has 3, I think some might have less or more. Just slip this into the bearing and that's it. That goes over here, that goes in here. Now we have the end of it sticking out there. So let's replace our washers and our nuts on the end here. So we can do that up like this. The other one again. 1 washer, 1 nut. Just going to push that through there, like so. I'm just going to tighten that up. Just going to gently nip each side so it's even. That's 1. That's 2. There we go. Just nip that up like this and nip that up like this. I also like to put a little bit of thread lock on there as well. It just stops it coming off. You don't have to. I prefer to do it. Now it's back together. We have the gear now that slips in and out nicely. Okay, we have the washers on the end of the shaft where they belong, and now we have to put the brushes back in. So let's start with this terminal here. Just unscrew the screw from here, lift it up like so. Now we're going to take one of the new brushes. Let's not take the old brushes because that wouldn't be clever. These are the new brushes. And we are going to insert them into the motor. Okay, so again, like what we did when we took it out, we're going to just lift the spring up. Maybe I'm going to take a little tiny right angled pick and I'm just going to lift the spring up like this, and I'm going to hook it over the top there. Then I'm going to just slide the brush inside like so. Come on. And there we go. That brush is now inserted. So I'm going to put the screw through there and lock it into place. So that goes in like so. There we go. And then we screw that down like this. Right, that's locked into place. As you can see, I don't know if there you go. You can see that's locked into place, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. Remember, we also have the terminal on the other side that goes onto the coil as well. So let's get the screw out like so. We're then going to insert the brush. Like so, the same way, exactly the same. It's a bit fiddly, but it can be done. And they're quite big, the new brushes, because obviously they're new, and the spring goes on it like so. And now I'm just going to screw the brush down and making sure I pick up that other terminal underneath as well. There we go. And also make sure this on this side it doesn't anywhere touch the body, because you will short it out otherwise. Oh, come on. So let's just line this up, because remember the body of the starter motor is earth, so anything touches it you will have some sparks flying. So this screws down like so. Okay, that's screwed down. Just want to make sure that this isn't touching anything that it shouldn't, which is close, but it doesn't touch, so that's fine. So if you have a look, that's actually quite close. It is close, but as long as it's not touching the actual body of the motor, then you're okay. So that's your brushes in. Now we're going to put the brush cover on, back on, so that just gets slid on like so over the brushes, and then tightened up with the flathead screw that's on the other side. Again, I know people like to jazz up their starter motors, but leave this metallic part free and this free, because it's actually where the motor gets its earth from. So if you paint this, it won't get a proper earth. So that's together now. The next stage is we're going to get some wet and dry sandpaper, and we're just going to clean off the terminal that obviously I sprayed there, so we have some proper contact. So if you bear with me a second while I grab some sandpaper from somewhere. 1 second. Right, now I've just sanded off the terminal again. As you can see, the last but not least thing to do will be to put our nice clean switch back on. So the switch goes on this way, which is quite self-explanatory because that hits the lever. So the switch goes on like this. 2 screws and washers that came off the switch go back in like so. One there. Doing it with my hand is not very easy. There we go, one there, and we have one more on this side here, like so, which goes in like so. Tighten that and tighten that. And that is your rebuilt starter. So you can see the way it works. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you build the starter. That's how it should move inside. And now all that's left to do is let's test it. So we have a finished starter motor. I'm going to hook it up using just a step jump lead on a battery that I've got here. Negative terminal goes onto the body of the motor. Positive terminal goes onto the little positive strip here. What I'm going to do first is just push the button just to make sure the motor runs like this, so it's running. And then I'm just going to use the lever and just make sure that everything is turning properly. There you go. Perfect. We have one good starter motor. And this is such an easy job to do, something that everyone can do at home. It's not that tedious. whatsoever. The parts are readily available, the bushes are available, the gears are available. It's something you can do in a couple of hours at home. You can have a nice looking starter motor, and it will definitely make your Fiat a lot easier to start. It'll turn over a lot more positively, and especially when it's cold, and also when it's hot sometimes. You know, when they crank very sluggishly, it's the starter motor that's tired. So doing this will give you a really nice, good starter motor. Anyway, we will move on tomorrow, I think, to either carburetor or distributor. I'm not sure, it depends what everyone wants to see, but I'm going to do them both. I'm going to try and push out some more videos. Anyway, look after yourselves. I will put some links in the description to where you can get the actual parts from to rebuild these, and any questions, please ask me in the comments. See you later.